Hey everybody, I'm KK.
I'm Kristen.
Together we are
KK Crochet.
And today's another episode of Stitch and Dish. And what is Stitch and Dish? Well, Stitch and Dish is where I show you, or Kristen shows you, a stitch that we have tried in a hat. And then dish about the stitch, what we thought about it, what we think about if we'll want to use it again, talk about the pros and cons, or like what is the mystique behind the stitch that nobody... everybody is intimidated by it, but really it's just XYZ, just breaking things down. And so we're just doing basic hat increases, which we've talked about in the first video. You can go back and see the very first Stitch and Dish and find out what a basic hat increase is for us. You can do whatever you want to do. That's just explaining what we've done. It's the basic hat that has 10 double crochets and a magic loop, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50, then 60 stitches, and then we start the stitch. And the deal was, I was hoping that I would find a stitch and practice throughout the whole hat. Yeah. I quickly found out that wasn't going to happen all the time, because there were going to be stitches that I found useful, but not useful in a hat, or I didn't want to make the whole entire hat that way. Can you guess what stitch that might have been, or what kind of stitch it might have been a play on? What kind of stitch do you never want to use in a hat? Because it takes forever.
Moss stitch.
Well, pretty close.
That's the only thing I think about that you didn't like.
The moss stitch. I do love the moss stitch, but
it
takes forever. I love the fabric and I love the look, but it takes forever. So you've got to be in the right mindset. For me, a moss stitch project has to be a long-term project, even a hat that I'm just going to work on when I'm just wanting to crochet, and knowing that it's going to take time and it's okay. So I decided that I would do the waistcoat stitch. And so, yeah. This right here is the general increase down to here. And this little panel right here that you see is the waistcoat stitch. Sorry, disruptions. So this is the waistcoat stitch. I'll put it up there so you can see. Kristen can hold it. And I had I had always heard of this stitch and was just kind of like that way. Okay, I'd always heard of this stitch, and I guess to me it sounded like a very proper name. I don't know. But I did do it a little bit here down at the bottom too, because I wanted to have a cohesive hat. It's a beautiful stitch. It makes a very stiff and a very thick fabric. As you can tell, that part of the hat is just... And I would say if you're going to make a hat with that, you may have to adjust your sizing when you get to the area that you're using that in, because it's going to be a very tight stitch, regardless of how you really... Yep. And so it would be very pretty, in small doses like this. It's very pretty and very doable. For me, it's not doable in a long-term project. The stitch is super easy. You literally waistcoat stitch. It really sounds like you are doing something really fancy, and it looks really fancy, but it's not fancy. It's very easy. I mean, it might look it, but it's not hard, is what I'm saying. It literally is taking your crochet hook and going through a single crochet and splitting the V of the single crochet.
You can kind of tell. You can see it.
Give me a hook and I'll show. I'll try to do this one a little better than last time. So, I'm not talking about, if you're looking at it, I'm not talking about the V on top. I'm talking about the V in your stitch. So, these are your single crochets. I'm talking about taking your hook and putting a stitch in the middle of the V. You see that?
Yeah, I see.
The middle of the V. So the middle of the actual stitch, you're dropping down into the stitch and splitting open your single crochet and putting your single crochet there. That's all it is. You're stacking single crochets on top of each other, but you're splitting the V stitch. It's not hard. It makes a pretty stitch. I would not want to make a whole hat with it, but I have very tight tension. If you had looser tension, it might be okay. And again, first time doing the stitch, it's a little bit, I'm probably a little more, tight gripped on my hook and trying to figure it out. I do like the way it turned out. I think it's pretty. I absolutely think it'd be beautiful in a project, but it's a pass for me. I mean, it, at least for a hat. So, it turned out okay, but I don't want to do that. I'm looking for, ways to do hats that are different this year, but that also I don't have to necessarily follow a pattern. Now, I am doing hats by patterns. Still going to do that because I love them and I think they're gorgeous. But I also want to just be able to sit sometimes and just not, and just crochet a hat. And I've done so many of the basic ones that I just wanted to do something a little different. So that's what Stitch and Dish is about. So this Stitch and Ditch is the waistcoat stitch. Let me know down below, have you made something with this stitch? What was it? Did you enjoy it? Do you like it? Will you use it again? Let me know. Dish about your journey with the waistcoat stitch. Maybe you've never heard about it before. Tell me that too. I think I had heard about it before, but I'm not sure that, I'm not sure. If I did, it's been a while since I've actually taken a look at it. So, and these are just random stitches that I am pulling out of thin air, and I'm not like, I'm just going and Googling sometimes and saying crochet stitches and looking through and seeing which one I'd like to try. So that's the one for this week, and you can let us know what you think about it, and maybe you want to try it. It is very simple, and I may go back and try it again sometime with a different project. This is about learning the vocabulary and the stitches so that later when you want to go do something, you can pull out a stitch and go, oh, let's do that. And maybe that's not where you're at in crochet, and that's okay too. But it's also okay to just sit back and watch then and figure out what it is. So if you hear about it later, you can go, oh, I remember. And that was just this, and it's not hard, and I can do it. Because sometimes I think that's the thing. We get intimidated by names or by the looks of a stitch, when in reality, it's very easy. Do you have a stitch like that you learned, and then you're like, oh, I can do that. It's not hard.
Every crochet stitch ever.
Oh, that's not true. Don't let her fool you. She's very good, and she makes up all kinds of stuff. So, but just know that, sometimes it's just a matter of trying, and that's what I'm trying to teach me. This is as much for me as anybody else. I'm trying to teach myself that it's worth trying once to see if you like it, and to see, if it's something that you can do, and just give it a shot. Stop looking at names and judging the book by its cover, right? You have to go a little deeper than that. So anyway, that's all we have for today. Don't forget to be kind, because
you don't know anybody else's journey.
Bye.
Bye.